Hi, my name is Dana Arnett, co-host of Wicked Marketing, along with my partner, Carlos Cepene. You can find more information about us and our business on LinkedIn, or if you have any questions, email us at info@wickedbionic.com. Subscribe to Wicked Marketing on Apple Podcasts and write an awesome review for us. We're also on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Google Play. Thanks for listening. Hi, I'm Dana.
And I'm Carlos.
And we are so happy to have you listening to us today. We have a return engagement by one of our favorite people, Lia Haberman. She's an incredible content developer and strategist, and she is the adjunct professor at UCLA. She's a corporate trainer and a communication expert, and we are so happy to have her here to talk about TikTok. Go ahead, Carlos.
Yes. So if you listen to our last podcast, you'll be as excited as we are to continue this conversation with Lia, because she is such an expert at looking at content and leveraging content to get your brand out there, and also from an expert standpoint on how to craft the strategy behind building that content. So one of the things that I wanted to go into, because it is a hot topic right now, is this. Again, we're sort of getting into a culture war here, where I remember back in the day when Pinterest came out and Instagram was around, and it was like the war of images, right? Like, where do you post your content? Where do you post your images? What's going to be the one that works? Where do I put my effort? That's sort of being revived now, with TikTok being this huge success that it's become. And then the return of Vine through Byte, which had basically been a huge flop, but now with the threat of the government shutting down TikTok, Byte is starting to come around. And then the now announced launch by Facebook of Instagram Reels, which is already launched around some of the countries in the world. I think Brazil and India are already using it. And then it will eventually be coming to the States. I think, Lia, one of the first things that came to mind, the more I hear about all this stuff, is we're getting into that world again, right? Where you have to have now 3 pieces of video that you put out there, or you reuse the same piece of video. Are you splitting your audience? Where do you need to focus on? Like, what are your thoughts behind what's happening right now?
Yeah, and I noticed you didn't mention Snapchat, but I would say don't count Snapchat out. I think, we saw Snapchat's kind of disappeared, but I think that they're kind of slowly, quietly doing things behind the scenes. I saw that they're just rolling out expanded brand pages on Snapchat. So not to confuse people even further, but I'm just saying, just kind of keep an eye out, like low-key Snapchat.
Well, and I think it's hugely important, because Snapchat was a huge success until Facebook came out with stories and started stealing their audience, right? So it's happening again, where Facebook has a competitor in market, TikTok, and instead of evolving and coming up with their own ideas, they're basically looking to replicate.
Yeah, they're basically copying TikTok. And I think, it's one of the, I want to say, a rare time that I was wrong, but when Snapchat, essentially when Instagram took that model for Snapchat and developed Instagram stories, I thought, really, is the Instagram audience going to buy this? They love their feed. If they wanted stories, they'd be on Snapchat. And I was wrong. Instagram stories is a huge success. I think it's 500 million people, daily active users. So Instagram stories, here to stay. Facebook sees like the biggest growth potential, I think, in, ads in Instagram stories. They're looking at a template to roll out where your Instagram, a landing page would be just stories. So I think that they've cracked the code. Stories is a great product, and they're doing really well with it. So now you ask me, Reels is coming up. We're supposed to be getting Reels, I think, in August. And like you said, I think it's in Brazil and several other countries where they've got this Instagram Reels, which is essentially a duplicate of, or a sort of a duplicate of TikTok.
Yeah.
Based on what we've seen with stories, I have a feeling that Reels will do really well. Every once in a while, Facebook and Instagram do roll out a product that doesn't work and that the audience doesn't respond to. But particularly when they roll it out based on something else successful, it tends to do pretty well. There was somebody actually on LinkedIn who commented on a post of mine. She was from Brazil, and she said, at this point, they're doing duplicate content.
Mm-hmm.
They're putting.
I read it on your LinkedIn.
Yes, whatever they're putting up on TikTok, they're just duplicating on Reels. Mm-hmm. And I think it's hard to say without I don't have access to the Reels beta, so I've not seen it yet. So without seeing Reels or understanding how it works exactly, I'm going to say that for right now, I think probably most people are going to duplicate what they have on TikTok and just put it up on Reels until, it always takes a few months, if not, 6 months to a year to really kind of see how the audience responds and what they respond to. So I think at the beginning, you certainly can duplicate the content, and then just naturally we'll start to see what works better on Reels and what works better on TikTok. Certainly what doesn't work right now, and I was talking to an Instagram influencer turned TikTok influencer, you can't take what works on Instagram or Instagram stories and just put it on TikTok. It's much more Instagram, even stories, it's still more polished. It's still more produced. Whereas TikTok, she happens to be a food influencer. So Instagram is a lot of like hands, top down, hands and pans, she calls it. So it's a lot of her making food and showing people how to do stuff. On TikTok, she took 6 months, to her credit. She took 6 months. She jumped on TikTok last November, took 6 months. At first, she was just, cross-posting Instagram to TikTok, then gradually started to do more stuff where she was talking direct to camera, really involved, eyes with the, eye level, kind of eye contact with the audience. And that started to that worked for her. And so she really doubled down on TikTok. She's having a conversation, a direct conversation. And it makes me think a little bit of like YouTube, where it's like YouTube's very personality driven and you need to be talking to the camera. You need to have that relationship with the audience. And I think TikTok is similar. The benefit to this TikTok, first Instagram, now TikTok food influencer, is she was saying that because she's got a link back to her Instagram, she's been a little less focused on Instagram because she's trying to take advantage of the TikTok algorithm, which right now is really benefiting creators and rewarding creators. She said she's actually getting Instagram followers who are coming from, they had never found her on Instagram. They purely discovered her on TikTok. And that's actually converting to her Instagram account, where her Instagram account is growing because people on TikTok are going and searching for her on other platforms. So
great case study there.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, sure. I think what I'm seeing, right, just looking at it from the data standpoint and the strategic standpoint, is I see a big difference between Instagram trying to replace Snapchat with stories, because stories is still very much about me telling my story, right, or doing what I do, versus TikTok, because from two big sort of challenges that I see, the two biggest challenges there. One of them you mentioned already, actually you mentioned both, but one of them that's a big one is the discovery algorithm that TikTok has right now. So while the main focus of Facebook is always around you and your friends and your community, TikTok by default puts you into the For You page, which is the discovery area, right? So these are not always, there's a mix of people that you follow and people that you don't follow, but you actively have to switch over to the people that you follow if you want to see their stuff. The initial focus is about discovery. And Facebook, their strategic approach to social media has always been about showing you what they think is the most relevant content for you, not just allowing you to go out there and discover, right? So for me personally, I've been on TikTok since Musical.ly, right? Since before it was TikTok. And I'm more of a watcher than I am an influencer going on there and
like you don't participate.
I'm not a participant in it, but I do consume copious amounts of TikToks daily, and I will say my cousin sent me a TikTok the other day. It had a really fun filter that changed your eye colors every time you blink, and I was like, oh, I'll just put up a TikTok. I won't hashtag it at all. I won't put anything because I don't want people discovering me. I'm just going to post it for the 5 people that follow me on TikTok, just for me to have this
hilarious.
video.
You're hilarious.
Next day, I had like 10,000 people had looked at my no hashtag, no anything. I had all these people following me, liking me. I'm like, what is happening?
Right? Get some content out there today, Carlos.
The accidental influencer.
Accidental micro influencer.
Yeah.
So that is one piece of it. And then the other challenge that I see with it is that while Instagram stories melds your personality with your creativity, TikTok is more about melding your creativity with your personality. So it's a creativity first type of thing. And that's harder to do to me than having your personality be the key driver. So that's where I see a difference in, okay, if you're going to meld in now TikTok or copy what they're doing on TikTok, but you're not going to copy over the discovery features of it. And you're going to meld it in with something that is more personality first than creativity. I see a big challenge there because that's what, to me at least, what I see from the people that are engaging with TikTok is that what hooks you is the creativity, and then the conversation and the personality of the creator is not as it is important, but it's not as relevant when you look at the commentary. Like, they do feature the post that the creator likes, and they'll reply back with like a minor comment, but they don't really get engaged with that. It's more about how creative were you, how new, how different, how touching, emotionally connecting you were when you created your content. So that's kind of where I see the challenge there of now Facebook.
Well, I agree with you, Carlos, in terms of the creativity. Certainly, I think that, TikTok was founded on creativity, the dancing, the memes, all of that good stuff. And I absolutely has a place. And I think that's what makes it so joyful. Like, I also have been on TikTok since it was Musical.ly, and it's a lot of fun. Like, it's just, it's uplifting. It's cute. It's charming. I also don't really post, but I lurk. What I have seen, however, is lately, for example, people are getting on TikTok. And I think quarantine has had a lot to do with it. I think there's like a lot of cross-generational adoption because of everyone's home. People are home with their teenagers or their college age, children. And so you've got parents and grandparents participating. There's different people, Tabitha, the woman that's kind of like the breakout hit for cooking. She was profiled in the LA Times recently. I think it's I Am Tabitha or Tabitha something. And she makes these vegan recipes, and she's not really taking that much advantage of TikTok's video editing services, for example. This is kind of like where the creativity you talk about, especially like TikTok version 1.0, was very much all about the video editing and the special effects. I feel like you're starting to see more people, more quote unquote grown-ups, adopt the platform and find a way to make it work for them. So Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, got onto TikTok last week. His was literally just a vertical video. I mean, there was no nod to TikTok whatsoever. It was essentially just a vertical video that they put up. And somebody reached out. There was a diplomat who's on TikTok, asked me to do, we did a little interview, and he did like let's rate Emmanuel Macron's launch of TikTok. And so, I gave him a 6 for execution, but a 10 for getting on the platform and understanding that is where the younger that is where Gen Z is, or a lot of them. And like I said, as people are home and they're stuck inside and you've got parents and grandparents and children all together, I think that TikTok's user base is going to grow. The demographic, I think, is going to expand beyond what we think of TikTok now is like maybe a 12 to 16-year-old who's doing dance videos. And I think it's going to be, people are going to figure out interview formats. Certainly this person that interviewed me last week had kind of figured out how to, essentially I sent him my answers by video and he cut them, he stitched them together to make kind of a question and answer format on TikTok. Mm-hmm. We're seeing the people who are cooking, and they're doing some legitimate recipes on there that are not, like I said, they're not all about special effects and video editing. So I think we're going to see an evolution. I do agree with you that certainly creativity led the conversation at the beginning, but I think we're going to see TikTok evolve. And whether or not, the problem with Reels is that, they're working off the original TikTok. And I think they're trying to duplicate that experience, but TikTok is going to keep evolving in the same way that Snapchat is going to keep evolving. And they're coming out with new things. I think Facebook's, one of their biggest challenges is like, do you have a vision beyond just duplicating a competitor so that you're not bleeding audience? At this point, I don't know that, have they actually spent enough time coming up with like a vision and a strategy for what Reels is down the road? Or were they just like, hey, we need our answer to TikTok quick. Let's get the product team, the engineering team to bang something out. And that's what we don't know yet, really.
Yeah, it just feels like Facebook is constantly playing a game of catch up, right? It's kind of like a PC trying to catch up behind the Mac.
Yeah. I have a question. I have a question about audience, Lia, because Carlos and I talk about this often, so we have our platforms that are very segmented as far as age. And with Facebook being the older generation. Now, you just brought up a really good point because you said TikTok now, other generations, all generations, it seems almost, are there. Yeah. What makes me happy about that is that if there doesn't need to be, it would be great to have a platform that doesn't need to have a division of age. That anybody there that has interesting content, that they can put out something that's fun, that's engaging, it doesn't matter. Carlos said there was a 90-year-old grandmother on there, Like that would be a beautiful thing.
Well, and I think that to that point, Dana, one of the things, Lia, I don't know if you agree with this, but the differences that I've seen between the millennial generation, which was very much like, you guys don't understand me, you don't know what I'm talking about type of thing, or you don't care. The Gen Z generation has actually been, aside from being massive activists and everything that has to do with political and change, and which is exactly what I want them to be, which is great that they are, they've been hugely welcoming to there's like,
they don't exclude people in the same way that, we've seen a little bit with, and I hate to like categorize all millennials as excluding people, but certainly there has been, a kind of that exclusionary, like the fact that, we're saying boomers, okay, boomer, that whole idea that somebody is generally, whether they're actually older or just, conceptually, culturally kind of out of it. I do love that TikTok is inclusive. You mentioned a 90-year-old grandmother. I think I'm trying to create a list of, to recommend, because sometimes people will ask me, well, like, who can I find on TikTok that's not going to make me feel out of it, not going to make me feel like I don't belong? And so there's like another grandmother that's a drummer and she does drum solos on TikTok. And I'm just like, I get it, grandma. So I love this. You love to see
and there's a lot of that cross-generational too. Yeah. Like there's a lot of like the grandkid with the grandma. There's this one kid that the grandma has a water gun hidden around the house all the time and does like all this sneaky stuff. Like he'll leave his sweater on the couch and he'll walk away and leave his phone running. And you'll see the grandma go grab the sweater and go hide it. Yeah. And then act like it was never there. So it's like this jokey, fun, like cross-generational, lots of people interacting with their parents.
Dame Judi Dench, the British actress, her grandson is on TikTok, and he does like his whole TikTok strategy is like him and his grandma, who happens to be Judi Dench, Academy Award-winning actress. But so it's I love seeing it. And I do have to say, though, Carlos, I agree with you on Gen Z and the really using technology for like digital
Activism,
impact or
right?
activism,
Yeah.
social impact. Yeah, we are seeing a lot of that with TikTok and with other things too. I mean, they're using the tools that are available to them, TikTok being one of them, leaving Google. I'm sure this was right at the beginning of the shutdown where it was, I think, Chinese students that were leaving like 1-star reviews on a teaching app. Essentially to get the app taken down. I mean, that's not really digital diplomacy or activism, but it's certainly an example of how Gen Z is harnessing the technology that they have and the tools that they have to impact change. And
the knowledge, the overpowering knowledge that they have because they've grown with it to the value of their joint efforts behind any of these things, which are self-organized joint efforts that they take on. Some of them are, like you said, are activists. Some of them are a little more worrisome about the concept of that canceling culture and silencing culture. But still, the one thing that continues to be a common thread about it is that they are willing to listen, they're willing to engage, they're willing to allow the perspectives and views of other generations to come into play as long as they're respectful of the way that they communicate them, which I think is great. Like and everything, it has its positives and its negatives.
Funny is funny no matter how old you are. Funny is funny, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's awesome,
Yeah.
So do you have any wrap-up conversation or something you want to say to wrap kind of this?
Well, we didn't really get into data privacy, and as we're kind of wrapping up, because I think there are some concerns with TikTok, and rightly so. And I think that's what makes people nervous. I guess I would say, if we're just wrapping up, I think that there are data privacy concerns on all of the platforms. I don't know, listen, if you're in government or military, then I think you have a separate data privacy concern with TikTok than the general public. I think that, all of our platforms, I mean, if you're using an iPhone, you're using Google, you're using Facebook, you're buying stuff off Amazon, the amount of like data that's known about you and sold and bartered, I don't think that TikTok is unique in being concerned about data. And I think one of the best things that a recommendation was use a separate password for TikTok. Don't log on to TikTok. If you are concerned, use a separate password. Don't use, for example, like your banking password with your TikTok password. And I think that should be true of really any social platform or anything that you log on for, is just to make sure that you have unique passwords for different platforms, so that, if for any reason your data was used above and beyond just for marketing and for sales, they would be limited to that one platform.
Yeah.
And Carlos, I feel like that gets to the technology side. So I don't know if you have more thoughts on.
I have tons of thoughts. We could do a whole podcast on it, but I will say this: there's a level of comfort in ignorance or acceptance in knowing that I think people are comfortable with knowing that the US is collecting data on them. And there's a level of uncomfortability knowing that China is collecting data on them, right?
Yeah.
So from a technology standpoint, and this is the approach I take personally, just because like Lia, I'm more of a watcher than an engager, but you can even do this as a watcher. As an engager, is if you have an iPhone, or you can do this on Android too, when you are not actively filming a TikTok, or actively recording a TikTok, however you want to call it, you have the ability to block the app's access to your microphone and to your camera, as well as to your photos. Now, it does take a little bit more time than when you want to re-record, but for people like me that don't record, right, and like Lia that are not on it, limit the access to the microphone, limit the access to the camera.
Only when using the app. Is that the part within iPhone? Is it?
They don't have it only while using the app. They don't have that for microphone and for camera, but it is a simple setting, right? So you go under settings, and then you look for microphone, and you disable TikTok, and you look for camera, and you disable TikTok. And then if you ever want to go record something, then you can go in and enable those. I've done that for Instagram. I've done that for Facebook. I don't, even within the US, I like to leverage the fact that the iPhone in particular is so protective. Now, here's the truth behind it. For me in particular, having come from the world of data after NBCU, working at one of the biggest ad tech companies, is that the data that is bartered and sold and trafficked basically out there goes far beyond anything that people can imagine. And I think that there's, again, like I said, a level of comfort in ignorance. I mean, even MasterCard sells data about how you use your credit card, what you buy, and it's these unique identifiers that are tied to. So there's a lot out there, but there's some steps that you can take, to Lia's point, to protect yourself as much as possible from the amount of data that you're putting out there. And it's not only tied to TikTok, which
right.
There's its own political reasons why TikTok is being targeted right now.
But it's every platform.
It's every platform.
Yeah.
There's so many Chinese apps that are on the American App Store that are free things that nothing is free. Nothing in life is free, right? So you're downloading these apps that are giving you stock quotes, or they're giving you the weather in different areas of the world or whatever, that are not the prepackaged Apple apps. Those apps, a lot of them are collecting data on you, right? And they're collecting it whether you're using the app or not. So it's background data. So, is there an argument? Yes. Is there an argument? Yes. But
and I think there's so many opportunities too that those of us that want to dig deeper on how to really protect our data is exactly what you both are saying, right? So many opportunities to do that. But I think the awareness is what's so important that we hear, that everybody gets to hear. So thank you both for talking about that and getting that in. I think that's important, Leah, especially when we're talking about something,
Leah, I think we need to have you guest many more times on this.
Yes,
you are so brilliant.
I love it. I just love to have these kind of conversations.
I know, obviously, it's just super fun. And I love the fact that TikTok is, like we were saying, multi-generational. It's a great place for people to just watch, learn. And then if you're not Carlos and Leah, you'll participate.
Yeah. I'm thinking of it. I am thinking actually of developing a TikTok strategy for myself. So it's kind of like, it's percolating right now.
Leah, you should do it now, because
I know if
so
you're going to do it, that's the thing, is like right now,
Mm-hmm.
people are getting tons of exposure, and it's a really good time to jump on. If somebody's debating, should I jump on?
Jump on.
Absolutely.
Do it. Jump in.
Yeah, thank you again for being with us. You're just a gem. We appreciate it, and best of luck and everything.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening today. Don't forget to subscribe to and share Wicked Marketing on Apple Podcasts, and write an awesome review for us. We are also on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Google Play. See you next time.